Let's have a quick conversation about sales decks. So, sales decks are pretty powerful, whether you have an existing business, a startup, or anything in between, okay? So, in today's conversation, I want to really give you a bird's eye view of a sales deck and what you really need to keep in mind if you want to make it, let's say, appealing, okay? So, here's an overview. The thing is that when you think about a sales deck, think about sales presentation, but in a concise manner, in a briefer manner, okay? So, although the terminology differs from company to company, a sales presentation is technically different from a sales pitch. The thing is that every sector is different, every niche is different, every economic sector, like every, I would say, every target audience is different, right? So, your sales deck has to be adaptable to your target audience. So, a sales pitch is usually a one on one interaction between your sales rep and a prospect, typically via phone call, virtual meeting, in person, or even over email. So that's what a sales pitch is. It's even shorter than a sales deck or a sales presentation. Now, a sales presentation is a little more complicated, typically involving a meeting with several key stakeholders and a demo of your product. So it usually happens when your sales team is trying to choose, let's say, to choose a more, I would say, a more compelling target audience or close a more lucrative deal. Now, a sales deck is usually in between. It's usually between a sales pitch and a sales presentation. Okay, so even for a seasoned salesperson who actually is trying to close a deal, a sales presentation can be a little, I would say, intimidating, okay? Because it typically involves presenting to a group of senior executives and decision makers. So you know that you're like, it's a make it or break it, like, it's a win or lose sort of deal, okay? So now, sales deck is actually the series of slides you use to guide your audience through your sales presentation. Slide presentation can help your audience understand key statistics, pricing, and product features, which your sales reps can build a story around. Because it's all about storytelling when you think about it. Okay. Now, the best sales decks enhance your sales team's pitches by acting as a touchstone. They should enable your salespeople to tap into their personal knowledge and provide more information that's personalized to the prospects and stakeholders they are presenting to. Okay. Now, even the best sales deck needs to be supplemented by your team's best sales strategies to close a deal, because a sales deck is just a tool, but your sales team acumen, their expertise, their savvy should be the one telling you, should be the one actually helping you close a deal. So the thing you need to understand here is that I want to go back to storytelling for a second. The thing is, a sales deck is a tool, and the stats are just numbers. What you actually have to think about is a story. Storytelling becomes really important because storytelling has to be woven, okay, woven into the whole conversation. Let me give you an example. If you give a bunch of stats to your audience, what do those stats tell as a story? If you say, for instance, like your company sells the kind of products, how do you actually solve pain points to the clients? Okay, it's all about storytelling. So if you tell a story, for example, about an existing customer who faced the same challenges as your prospect and overcame them with great success backed by real data, they are more likely to listen, right? Because it's all about storytelling. It's all about resonating to your target audience. Because if you think about it, human beings have a deep relationship with storytelling. Stories move us, teach us, and in a sales context, persuade us. So we remember stories more than we remember anything else. Okay. At the end of the day, if you even if you go back to let's say children's movies or animations, all that kind of stuff, people love storytelling. Okay, and that's an important element, not just children, but also adults and everybody else. It's important. So you want to use stories in your sales presentation to help prospects remember the key points. Okay, because at the end of the day, you want your prospects to remember the key points so they can actually take actions later on. Okay, and analogies or relatable stories are an extremely powerful technique to avoid using internal jargon and allows the customer to understand the product or service in the real world. And that's what you want, right? You want them to understand how the product works for real. So, for example, explaining a display ad across the internet can be, let's say, likened to a billboard on the side of a building. Sellers often confuse clients by using complicated language. They may believe this makes them come across as more knowledgeable, but it's not as good as being relatable. Okay, people buy things they understand, so you want to help them understand. So here's the strategy. If you think about having a sales deck this year, you want to always start with a problem because your audience is sitting there listening to you, not because they are interested in hearing your stories, but they are interested in having your take on a specific problem that they're facing. Okay, so they want to hear your version of the solution, your solution, because probably there are several solutions in the market, but your solution is a little different. So they want to really hear how your solution stands out, how your solution can help them solve their problem, and how your solution actually is how do I say it? It's cost effective because it's not just about investing in a solution. The solution has to be cost effective because at the end of the day, you're speaking to business minded people, and it's all about ROI, return on investment. So your sales presentation should begin with a problem or a pain point your customers have that your product or service solves, right? So this is important. It's all about value. What kind of value are you adding to your customers' processes? Okay, so because value selling is key. So you want to understand your buyer and tailor their journey to what you can do for them, right? It's not about just like I'm selling a product or service. No, I'm selling this product or service that can help you. You also want to describe your product. So if you're thinking about having a sales deck this year, once you actually define the problem, you need to describe your product. And the thing is, you can position your features against the old way of doing things, for instance. You can present those features as superpowers that will solve your prospects' problems, comparing those features to competitors' features, and using a combination of some of those techniques. Okay. Now, when you compare your features to your competitors, please don't denigrate your competitors. Okay. You want to just show how your features are different from theirs. And so when you go to a sales presentation, please, you want to have a sales deck. You want to have the product itself. If it's a product, you want to have handouts, right? You want to have presentations from other team members. And you also need to understand that you want to think about technology also because nowadays many presentations are held virtually. So you want to make sure that on the tech side, you are really covered. So when you think about your sales deck, like for real, you have to think about a strong cover image. Okay, your first slide needs to grab your audience's attention. Otherwise, you're not going to really keep their attention over the next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so you want to have a strong cover image. You want to have data. So I'm speaking about charts, graphs, and infographics. Those are always a good way, okay, to support your story because remember, we are speaking about storytelling, okay? And you can get metrics from third party sources or from your own sales dashboard. You also want to have testimonials and case studies. Testimonials are not just for social proof, like for social proof purposes. No, testimonials are a way to help the prospect validate their decision making. Quotes and success stories from other customers will act as social proof, but also, I would say, real life proof to back up your data. You want to have also a customized content, so you want to personalize your presentation for each product. You might want to use their brand colors, find data specific to their market or industries, or reference an early exchange. It's um, it's all about making sure that the customer thinks that you're really speaking to their core problems. You're speaking to them. You're solving their pain points. There is specific pain points. Every customer has different pain points. Okay, And also, your last slides should actually be a direct call to action, offering one or two next steps, okay? Like maybe call our team, call our sales team, or whatever. Now, what about the product? The product is important because you want that's what I was telling you. Bring the product to the meeting, okay? You want to use the product in real life, and you can show off your products differently. If you have a physical product, think of the perfect environment for a demo. What would you show the product as at its best? With a digital product, make sure you have the technology on hand to show what your product can do, and check beforehand that the tech works okay. If it's a mobile app, have your prospects download it. If it's a platform, it might be best to demo via a projector. So it's all about thinking about what you can do beforehand. Think about having also handouts. So depending on the nature of your solution, you may need to hand out materials to the prospect in the room, such as contact information or sales collateral. Also, think about your team. Okay, if you're attending a sales presentation with another salesperson or as a team, you want to prepare together beforehand. Okay, it's very important to think collectively. You want to practice, 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 rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Make sure everything works, and also define everyone's roles. So if you think about sales decks this year, let me give you a few examples of sales deck example. I mean, sales decks that you can really, let's say, emulate from. So first you have Uber. Okay, so your sales pitch, your sales pitch deck should make a statement visually about what your product is and what it's designed to do. Think about Uber. So this sales deck from Uber, as you can see on the screen here, has a strong visual style with a theme of virality running through the text and images. Okay, so that's pretty good. And the bold colors, interesting visuals, and icons make for an engaging presentation. So this is pretty cool from a flexibility point of view. Okay, and that's something I want you to really think for your own business. And you also have TLET. So this is the second example. I want you to look on the screen here. TLET. What I love about TLET is that they have a pretty simple like cover page. Okay, their presentation adopts a very different but equally effective visual style. The visual style and palette, actually, of common grains and creams provide an intimate link with the business concept and context for how their brand operates. So that's pretty cool. Another one I want to show you is Snapchat. I love the Snapchat version a lot more because it's just it's just I would say there is no graphic. Okay, there's no graphic, but very powerful too. So graphs, social proof, and infographics can help attendees understand critical information, but use them sparingly. Too many graphs can cause confusion. So this presentation from Snapchat shows how you can keep a stats-based deck streamlined. If your story doesn't tell, if your story doesn't tell the whole context, if your story doesn't rely on figures, you can use your slides to feature real-world use cases for your product. Okay, or help your audience keep up with the narrative using bullet points. Another one I want to share with you, another sales deck. You have Airbnb. Okay, I love this one from Airbnb also because this early deck from Airbnb demonstrates a sound understanding of their concept and market. You can do the same by including industry stats or case studies. You also have Lunch Rock. This is also a company that I love a lot. Okay, and part of the role of your visual presentation is to actually help draw your audience's attention to key points, right? And Lunch Rock does a great job here. When they talk about Web 1, 101, 101, 1.0, Web 2.0, and beyond. Okay. So some ways to do this are by changing the font and font size, or using impact colors, or using icons to draw focus to critical information. So this deck that you can see on the screen here by Launchrock uses red and blue on black background to underscore their most important metrics, devoting entire slides to each data point. It's really simple but effective. Next, you have Zuora, and so the best sales deck gets straight to the point. So it's important that your sales deck mimics your overall sales narrative, so that by the time you're done speaking, you don't still have like several slides of information to go through. Right? It's all about making sure that you are maximizing the time that you have, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay. So on the screen right now, you can see this Zuora sales deck that continues on 3 slides beyond where it could reasonably end. However, by incorporating standalone testimonies and client success stories, they add weight to the argument that their product does what they say it does on the tin. Finally, you have oomph, and oomph actually it's all about resonating with your listeners or your viewers. So your sales deck needs to resonate with decision makers, which you can achieve easily using the following narrative structure: the problem you see in the market that your audience will relate to, the value proposition you offer by providing a solution, how your service and product solve this problem. So you can see on the screen an example of that narrative from oomph. So to close to this conversation, if you really understand, now you understand what a sales deck really is, and it's important to tailor your sales presentation. So once you have created your sales deck templates, it still needs to be personalized to your target audience. You will know from lead generation, prospecting, and sales calls that tailored pitches resonate best with the prospects, and it's exactly the same with sales presentations actually. So different industries have different challenges and opportunities. So if you want to sell to them, you need to address them, which means research, preparation, and customization. Okay. So the way you want to, the way you can nail the sales presentation is that you need to practice confident body language. This is really important. For instance, eye contact. You want to stand or sit up straight. Okay. Pulling your shoulders back and fixing your posture is an easy way to convey confidence. And you want to chin up, okay? Face straight ahead instead of looking at the floor, around the room, or at your shoes, for instance. And since you're talking to actual people, you want to keep them engaged, okay? Understand your audience's attention span. You can be funny. So if you're comfortable with humor, this is actually a good strategy. You want to use a little showmanship, a little, not too much, okay? It's all about making sure that you are getting them interested. You want to take questions whenever possible, okay? Sometimes your prospects will sit through your whole presentation and then ask questions. Other times, prospects may want a question answered right in the middle of a presentation. So if that happens, stop the presentation and take their questions head on, okay? You want them to know you are listening to their concerns and taking them seriously. And so this is really cool. And finally, what can you do after the sales presentation? Well, it really depends. Everything depends on your audience. Sometimes audiences might be interested in a specific topic. Sometimes they might just want to say, okay, we'll get back to you, right? But make sure that your next steps are clearly defined. Because the last thing you want is to actually leave your audience actually confused or frustrated that they have no idea how to contact you or what to do after the presentation. So you want to make sure they have enough, I would say, enough decision making points. Okay. So at the end of the day, with the right sales deck and in person sales strategy, your presentation should be a showstopper, really. Okay. You want to make sure that you tell a story, prove your value, and show customers that basically by adopting your product or service, they can change their business. Okay. They can change their business, their processes with your solution, and you will have a killer sales presentation that sparks your customers' interest and drives sales. So, as an epilogue into this conversation, I spoke to you about sales decks. I showed you a few templates, a few examples. I gave you the overview, the strategy, the tactics, okay? And now the epilogue. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.